Tonight I'm going to tell you about the Palmyra incident. The Palmyra Wolfman, the Palmyra Dogman, the Palmyra Wolves. It has created a lot of speculation and controversy about just what the heck is going on in Palmyra, Maine. All right, it started when the patriarch and matriarch of the family, there was a major shift in their life. Eric Martin had a debilitating accident at work. He ruptured several discs in his back and he became disabled thereafter. He had worked for 20 years at the same place. Anyway, that was just over for him. And his wife, Shelley Martin, stepped up and got a job to pay the bills around the place. But they had to move. Her job was in Palmyra, which is a small town that's a little out of the way for where they were living. They still had a teenage daughter. They were halfway empty nesters. They had a son that had moved out, was grown already, and a daughter that was 17, and she lived with them still, but, she was on her way out. They were almost empty nesters. Now, when they moved into the home, the first point of contention is that Eric was a lifelong hunter. He had been hunting all his life, and he had a pretty extensive collection of hunting rifles. Well, Shelley, this time when they moved in, she said, "You're going to keep your firearms in the barn there. I don't want them in the house around the kids." And Eric conceded. He agreed. They compromised. So he's going to keep his hunting rifles out in this barn. His son comes over and helps him build this elaborate strongbox because he has quite an extensive collection of hunting rifles and equipment. So they build this huge strongbox for it, and they lock it up tight in the barn, away from the children. And it doesn't take long. I mean, the first little bit, they're fine, no problems at all. This is a farmhouse built in the 1800s, and the rent was cheap, and it was close to her new job. It was just perfect. Okay, now this farmhouse has a wraparound porch. It's surrounded by dense woods. I mean, there's a clearing a little bit, but if you go 200 yards in any direction, you're going to run into dense forest. Now, this is, like I said, this is in Maine, in the uppermost reaches of Appalachia, Northern Appalachia. It's about 100 miles from Katahdin, Mount Katahdin, the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. So it's up there. Anyway, the first incident of note is that about a month or two after they had moved in there, Eric noticed some lights out in the woods. Just random lights cutting off and on, moving around in different directions. And of course, his first thought was poachers. He thought that there was somebody trespassing on his land, possibly hunting. So his son happened to be over, and they go out to investigate. They follow these lights to ask these poachers, trespassers to leave the property, private property, Anyway, they can never locate the lights. Before they get there, the lights will turn off or move in a different direction, and they just never located the source of these lights. But also, while they were out there, they got this oppressive feeling of being watched. I don't know if this has ever happened to y'all, but sometimes the woods just go really eerie quiet. Like everything stops moving, stops making noise. It usually means that there's another apex predator in the area, and you should be very cautious. You should be very aware, situationally aware. Okay, so they also hear, and it sounds bipedal. It sounds like it's walking on two legs, and it's stalking them. They hear it, maybe 50 feet away, so it's not right up on them, but it's definitely stalking their movements. That's the first incident. All right, before long, Chelsea, I think her name was Chelsea, the 17-year-old daughter, her boyfriend comes to visit. Now, the family had these two hunting dogs. So, Chelsea and her boyfriend, or the daughter and her boyfriend, don't hold me to Chelsea. That might be wrong. I read about 6 different versions of this story. This is a whole rabbit hole y'all can go down to. But anyway, they did have 2 hunting dogs that were said to be very obedient, very calm natured. They'd follow any orders. They didn't cause any trouble. Well, on this trip, when the daughter and her boyfriend were going out to the woods to walk the dogs, or you just have something to do and spend time together, the dogs took off. The dogs took off like they caught a scent of something, and they were not answering the commands. They were not listening to the owners at all, and they just went off on this trail. Well, when the boyfriend and the girlfriend finally discovered the dogs, they were sniffing around this big, looked to be a den, but it was put together with sticks and moss. It was dome-shaped, and it had a huge hole in the center of it. It was some kind of den, and they never seen anything like this before. This didn't look like anything the local wildlife could do, but it had a huge hole in the center, like an entrance. Now the boyfriend did get brave and tried to stick his head in there a little bit and see what kind of animal he was. But he said it heard a low, guttural growl, and the dogs tucked tail and took off, and they did too shortly after. He did not want to hear what was making that growl. So, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't either. Big random den in the middle of the woods growling at me. No, thank you. Especially if all the hunting rifles are locked up in this barn. All right, well, here is the clincher. That was the second incident, but here's the third incident, because Eric and Shelley had this habit every night. They like to sit on their front porch and have coffee. Just peaceful on on their front porch, just a wraparound porch. So they've got a great view, a 360-degree view of all the woods, all the serenity around them. Well, they start to get this feeling while they're out there having coffee this side. This is Memorial Day weekend of 2007 is when this happened. Well, Shelley always kept a high-powered flashlight. One of those real bright ones. She had one of those on deck because she was just curious by nature and always kept that on the porch with her, because the woods got real quiet again this time. Just all the insects, it seemed like the wind wasn't even blowing. They just got real still and quiet and oppressive, basically. So she shined her flashlight out in the woods and sees nothing initially. But her husband, Eric, he just has this sinking feeling. He just has it in his gut that he knows something is wrong, and that they need to get in the house. And he voices it. Shelley, we need to get inside right now. Well, Shelley didn't believe him at first. She wasn't going. She was enjoying sitting on the porch with her coffee. So she takes her high-powered flashlight again, and this time, staring directly at him, they see eye shine. From 3 different creatures, eye shine, and they are on all fours. She initially describes them as wolves, just regular wolves, because that's what you're naturally going to think when you see something big and very. Anyway, there's a lot of discussion on what this actually was. So anyway, three sets of eye shine are staring directly at him, and the eyes are set looking forward, so it's a predator, and not like a deer or something. On a prey animal, their eyes are looking the other way. But as she moves the flashlight along a little bit, she sees 2 more. So this time she's ready to take Eric's suggestion. They run inside the house, lock the door tight behind them. Now, Shelley, of course, first thing does is peek out the window at them, giving her position away. Well, they start to go Night of the Living Dead here. They barricade the whole ground floor, talking about doors and windows locked up tighter than a nun's corset. Furniture moved against all the entries. The whole cabin in the woods, they got it going on. First level is secure. They find the dogs when they're doing the initial check of the house. They find both the dogs cowering, hunkered down in one of the rooms with each other with their tails tucked. So they go up to the second level. Now, this is where the 17-year-old daughter happens to be sleeping. It's nighttime, and the mother wakes her up initially from her slumber to let her know what's going on. Looking from the second-story window of the daughter's room, she points them out. Now, the daughter is so groggy, she just says, "Oh, wow, a wild animal. Wake me back up if something really interesting happens." And that was the end of that at first. The daughter did not eat, because by this time, when Shelley looked out the window, these things were standing on two legs, and they could gain ground incredibly fast. Like from the position she initially saw them in, they could just cover some ground really quickly. But she saw them, and now they were standing up on two legs, and now she's getting a better look at them. And these things are at least 7 foot tall. That's the minimum estimate from all the stories I've heard and read, because this is a whole rabbit hole to go down, y'all. Anyway, these 5 creatures are not only standing bipedal, they can make good speed on 2 legs. Their legs are said to be reversed, like a dog's leg from a human's, kind of backwards in their gait. They have a human-like heel and long claws on the front, like a canid, a canine. They have a long snout, pointy ears that stand up. Said their hair, they do have hair on top of their heads instead of fur, and it was all unkempt. It wasn't matted, but it was definitely unkempt. And then these things start to make a guttural growling sound. So it's very low and very guttural. It's hard to explain past that, but it's like these things are communicating with each other. They're stalking them. They're smart. This is very atypical of regular animal behavior. I mean, they are hunting in packs, like canids do, like dogs or wolves do. They're hunting in packs. There's 5 of them, but they are strategically positioning themselves. There's a gravel driveway that is access to get to this cabin, this 100-plus-year-old farmhouse, and they're all standing on the gravel road. It's like they're just waiting on someone to make the mistake of coming out. So I identify with this part of the story because Eric, he was the provider for the family, but after this debilitating accident that happened, he moves real slow. He just feels real kind of useless because he's used to being the provider for his family. Now, I have been disabled for a year now, and I get this. I was the provider for the family, and now I've lost 4 toes. I got laid off medically, unexpectedly. So I retired early, real unexpectedly. But I can identify with Eric here because, all his hunting rifles are locked up tighter than a drum in a shed that's at least 100 yards away. And he doesn't think that he can make it on time. He doesn't think that he can unlock the barn, get to the cache of hunting rifles, and, access them before these things hone in on him. So, being the family, he comes up with a plan B. He says, well, I can't make it to the barn, but I can make it to my truck. And if I make it to my truck, I can back up to the front porch, and the family can dive in, and the dogs, and we'll just get out of here. If I can't fight, it's going to be flight. So here goes. He works up the courage. He doesn't even say anything to Shelley about it. He works up the nerve, and he creeps down the front porch with his keys, down the driveway, undetected. He's being as stealthy as he could, staying in the shadows. And then when he gets to the car, he had forgot about his motion-activated floodlight, security light. So as soon as he gets to his car door, this floodlight comes on, and he's just a sitting duck. These things can see him, from miles away now. Well, this flusters him. He drops his car keys, so he ditches plan B. He does it. It just freaked him out, the floodlight, and when he turned around, one of them was behind him. One of them had gained so much ground, and he didn't even realize it. But when it went across the fence to try to catch up with Eric, the floodlight, I don't know if it's blinded them, if it's sensitive to light or whatever, but it took off. It took off in the other direction, and this gave Eric the opportunity to escape back into the house. So of course, when he gets back in, and his wife upstairs hears all the commotion, she raises hell with him. You left the door open. You didn't even tell us you were going. But anyway, Eric was just desperate, trying to find an out for this. Well, they wind up going to the second floor. The first floor is totally barricaded out, and if you go up to the second floor, you can look out windows, strategically, and you can see all around the house from a higher ground point of view. So it's actually pretty tactically advantageous. They do have the right spot, and they're monitoring these things, and these things take off. They're no longer standing in the floodlight of the gravel driveway. They are in all directions, basically surrounding this house. Well, it didn't take long for them to discover the roof. On one side of the house, there was a roof that extended to the edge of the porch for shade. Well, these things crawled up there, and they were scratching. They were scratching the windows. They were trying to find a chink in the armor. They're smart, and they have claws, and they are really digging at this farmhouse. Fortunately for the three little pigs here, this house was not built out of straw. They're 5 bipedal wolves. They say they have short tails, like about a foot long, just really odd looking things. That's why there's so much speculation and names for these things. But they were witnessed by this whole family who was terrorized by them all night long on Memorial Day weekend back in 2007. So they call the police. Finally, they don't know what else to do, so they call the police. But guess what? The police think it's either a prank call or it's just a bear. They tell them to call the Department of Wildlife or whatever, and the Department of Wildlife tells them the same thing. It's probably just a bear. Just lock all your windows and doors. Don't go outside. We'll be by in the morning to make sure everything's okay. So that translates to the cavalry's not coming, guys. Y'all are on your own. So Eric, once more, he works up the nerve. He thinks that if he makes it to the floodlight, that will protect him. So he's desperate. He's trying to come up with one more last hurrah, Hail Mary play here, and he makes it. He hobbles as fast as he can to the barn door, but by the time he gets there, all 5 of them are surrounding him, and it's only the light that is protecting him, this floodlight, and he knows he can't move very slow. He doesn't know if he can activate it again. So he just basically abandons the plan again, hauls butt back inside the house. He makes it. Somehow the light covered him, protected him. And man, I believe there might be some Dogmen or Wolfman around here in Tennessee. Y'all hear that? So anyway, back to the house, barricaded in the house. And they are crawled up on the roof, scratching. They're on the first floor too, all around the wraparound porch. They're hearing scratching, and these things are heavy. They say you can feel the vibrations when they walk. 7 foot tall. They're very muscle bound in the chest area. Legs look more like kangaroo legs, and like I said, pointy ears, long like canid snout. And they're just scratching the hell out of this old farmhouse all night long. The family does go full-on cabin in the woods eventually and barricades himself in one room, of course, the master bedroom, and they all huddle up in there, and then they finally see the first rays of daylight, of sunshine. And it's like magic. These things disappear. As soon as the sun starts to come over the horizon, they're gone. So, they wait a good hour, make sure they're good and gone, full sunrise. And they go outside to, kind of assess the situation from the night before. Now, what they find is deep scratch marks and gouges all over the exterior Good thing this was built well back in the 1800s, you know what I mean? Because the door had deep scratches in it, the walls of the cabin had deep scratches in it, the screens on the windows were shredded, and they were footprints, bipedal footprints too, like creatures with claws, but they were walking on two legs. You could see it in the footprints, and it circled the entire property. Now, there's even a little more to this story. If the Wolfmen and Dogmen or whatever they were weren't enough, turns out that different residents that stayed in the same house, and even the original guy, Eric, they were seeing apparitions in this house. Now, Eric said that he saw just arbitrarily sometimes he would see the apparition of a little girl. And she was in tattered clothes, and she had a pretty somber look on her face. But he just let it slide. He figured he could handle the apparition of a little girl every once in a while, didn't even mention it to Shelley. Well, a new guy moves into place, and he stays there for a couple of years, and they have full-on poltergeist type activity going on. Talking about objects moving, objects disappearing, large objects moving themselves, like heavy objects. This was very mischievous, if not downright malevolent. And 2 years of that, he said he and his wife during that time co-witnessed a couple of apparitions in their bedroom one night. It was a lady and a man in Victorian dress. So I just need y'all to tell me what in the world is going on in Palmyra, y'all. I've seen so many comments on some of these stories that all corroborate. They say, oh, I've seen one here in this area, same area. So I need y'all to let me know what is going on with the werewolves in Maine. Did Stephen King manifest this with the silver bullet? Wasn't the werewolf from Maine in that movie? I don't remember. That's been too long ago than I care to admit. But this is Jay's Haunted Appalachia, and I hope you enjoyed my weekly deep dive special here on YouTube. I do one every Saturday. I hope y'all enjoyed the story of the Palmyra werewolf. If you have your own story, a true Appalachian paranormal story that you'd like to share, and you can remain totally anonymous if you want to, or you can get full credit, and bragging rights. That's up to you. But I would love to hear your true paranormal story from Appalachia if you have one, and would be willing to share it, on the channel sometime. Anyway, my email is included in my bio here. You can message me directly here, but please send me your stories. And thank you guys for watching. Tune in next Saturday for the next deep dive, and keep Appalachia haunted, y'all.